Wow, is it hot in Florida this year? More so than average. I know a lot of people say, well, it's summer, it's Florida. What do you expect? Well, it's a little hotter than normal, especially along the coastlines where typically this time of the year you will get some sea breezes that at least keeps the coastal regions a little cooler or milder, I should say, than the inland areas of Florida. So there is a way to explain the weather pattern that has been in place that has caused us to be so extra hot since June. And it's not just Florida. There's a couple other areas in the deep south that's been experiencing some of the same heat, especially down in South Texas and all along the coastline around the Gulf region. But we have a weather situation set up with this high pressure that's usually called the Bermuda High out here, and it's typically a little bit higher than where it is right now. And why that is basically because of this troughing across the U.S. that's digged down a little bit farther south than it normally does this time of the year, which has caused the actual high to erode a bit and also shift downwards to the south, more of a parallel line to Florida. So that has shifted the winds around the bottom of the state actually, and then they come back up on the west side. So the state is actually getting more of a westerly flow across the peninsula, whereas usually this time of the year you'll see more of an easterly flow coming across the state. And that usually happens when the high pressure is a little bit more to the north than it is now due to that troughing across the U.S. So a lot of the folks on the west coast of Florida will tell you right now that they haven't gotten much rain over there. And of course, it's been hot, um, like it has been across the whole state. When these west winds blow across the state, they come around the bottom, they come across the state like this. The East Coast obviously gets a lot hotter than they normally do than when the winds are coming out of the east. The breezes that come off the Gulf are going to be a lot warmer than those breezes that come off of the Atlantic because this ocean over here is a lot more shallow. So it heats up a lot quicker and it blows that hot, moist air towards the east and across the state. So this weather pattern that's set up right now has been existing since June, and it hasn't changed much at all. So it has just caused this extra heat that we've been getting across the state, the very high heat index values, um, at least for a good portion of the state, except for the west coast over here that's been bone dry and well below normal in rainfall. The rest of the state, at least this summer, has, especially the east side, has gotten quite a bit of rain this summer, and it's because those afternoon storms that develop inland are working their work their way eastwards across the state, or from the southwest to the northeast. So it's kept at least kept the inland areas and the eastern side of the state a little bit wetter than normal. But of course, those temperatures are actually way warmer than normal as well. So you're always kind of hoping that you're actually in line for an afternoon shower or storm to kind of cool you off some. So a little bit, maybe next week though, this high pressure here that's out here sitting nearly parallel to Florida will begin to shift more to the north as the troughing in the U.S. actually goes north as well. So that pattern would look a little bit more like this map I'm about to show you here. So once next week settles in, we get back to a little bit more of a normal weather pattern for the summer where this high has shifted back to the north. You can see across the U.S. here the troughing has shifted also back to the north. So now you'll see these winds coming out of the east and southeast, and they will start not only bringing a little bit milder air off the Atlantic, but it will also push the afternoon storms inland and towards the west coast instead of towards the east coast. So that will definitely, the west coast could definitely need some rain to put a dent into the drought. I mean, this is the rainy season, and they haven't gotten much of that this year. So hopefully that weather pattern change next week will not only help the extreme heat that's been across the state this summer, but also help the West Coast get a little bit more rain as well, which means late night showers and early morning showers across the eastern part of the state. This is a graphic here that shows you how that works with the cycles of the wind flows, upper level flows across the state. When you have that westerly flow coming across the state, it's more of the warm cycle. It keeps the rain away from the west coast of Florida, and you get more action towards the east side of the state because they're all coming from southwest or west to the northeast or east. But like we said, once again, you got all that warm water over the Gulf that just kind of rolls in with those upper level winds and sends all that right across the state. So that's why that's the reason why all that excessive heat that we've had has remained across the state this summer. So um, we go over to this map. This will show you more of what we can expect, or what we should be expecting this time of the year, is more of that southeast, east southeasterly flow across the state that will take those thunderstorms that will develop usually west of I-95 and the Turnpike, and then they begin to move more towards the western part of the state, which gives that area of the state more rain and hopefully helps them out with that deficit that they've had. So there's one more thing that's aided the higher than normal temperatures across the state of Florida and the deep south this summer so far, and it's called, you probably heard this a few times, it's called the heat dome. So basically it's that big high pressure system that's Bermuda high, that's usually a little bit more east and north. It's kind of shifted its way over, and this creates sinking air across the south and across Florida, which allows more heat to build in, and you get those really high um, heat index values as well. So that will also shift back out to the north and towards the east come next week. If you look on this graphic here, you'll see this is more of a normal pattern of how the high pressure usually works this time of the year. And it's just been a little different. I mean, it just happens in the weather world. I always say weather happens, patterns change from year to year. It may not even be like this next year. It could be back to normal. This happens time to time, but it's definitely hotter this year than it has been in the past summers. It's always hot in Florida, of course, but this year has been just a little hotter because of the way this high pressure has been moving around compared to how it usually sits this time of the year. So hopefully next week we'll get into a more normal pattern where it's not as hot. It's still going to be sticky, of course. It's Florida, but hopefully those heat index values won't be as bad. So hope that helps explain this hot weather we've had. Thank you.